Hey, everybody, it's the Jeb and Arky and the NFC North podcast. My name is Jeb, and I'm a tender of bar in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. I'm a podcaster and major influencer. I'm ordained in the Church of Open Ministry, and I'm podcasting today with my good friend and award-winning journalist, Arky Carlson. Arky, why don't you introduce yourself to our podcast listeners?
Sure thing, Jeb. Hey, everyone. This is Arky Carlson. I'm an award-winning journalist and sports columnist. I've been following sports for the last 30 years in the upper North Midwest. And, we're again separated today because I'm sticking out here in the Bay Area in San Francisco because the Vikings just took on the Niners, and they'll be welcoming the Packers next week.
Hey, Arky, we both called it right last week. We called the Niners beating the Vikings, even though we hated to do it and hated to see the Vikings lose. Of course, we called the Packers beating the Seahawks. Not only did we call them on a win, but we did say, as happened, that the aura of the Lambeau Field would come down like a dark curtain over the Seattle Seahawks in the fourth quarter of the game. And by golly, that's what happened. But did you make it? You were stuck last week trying to get out there to San Francisco. You got grounded. Your flight was diverted to Wyoming, and then you had to take the bus out there to San Francisco. Did you make it to the game? And if you did, can you give us a report on what happened to sum it all up, huh?
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of a situation. I don't know if I told you, I was originally planning to get picked up from my friend in Salt Lake City, which I ended up doing and taking, the Greyhound. But the Greyhound ended up getting breaking down out on I-80 in western Utah. But luckily, I got a friend out there. Shout out to my buddy Rod Turner, who used to race sled dogs for a while. He was able to get me to the local town in Nevada and able to get me over on where I needed to go for to be able to make it to the Bay Area. So ultimately I was able to make it out there successfully, and I was here for the game. And maybe we should just go over it real quick. There's not too much to say. We pretty much
I gotta ask you though. Did you guys go to Vegas?
we didn't have time to go down to Vegas as much as I would have liked to. Maybe partake in some of this the sins of American consumerism. I think we just didn't have time for it.
I just kind of curious, your buddy Rod. I met him a couple of times. He's a great guy and he good dog trainer and everything. I was wondering if you get to Vegas, can you bet on the Iditarod?
Oh, sure, you could bet on just about dang near every sorts of sport event there is. I included dog racing.
That's great. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, tell us about that game, Arky.
Well, anyway, get back to the game. I think we pretty much called it. We didn't think that the Vikings really had it in them, and a lot of these people on ESPN, I think they have such a recency bias. They're not able to really kind of taking the game week by week and using their eyes and using their analytical skills to evaluate the game. A lot of people were saying that the Vikings were going to win this game, and true to form here on the podcast, we do our research. A lot of extensive analysis in order to make these picks.
We make it sound like it's you and me. Of course, we got a huge staff of people behind this podcast doing a lot of that research for us. It's been a great team this season, and we owe a lot of credit to them, don't we?
Oh, sure. Thank you very much to our interns, Michelle and Oliver. They've done a lot of great work for us. A lot of Excel spreadsheets. We really couldn't have done it without them, I tell you.
Well, what else about that game? Anything you like to see in that game? Anything good about the 49ers there?
Well, I mean, the 49ers defense looks strong. The game started off kind of promising. They gave up that touchdown drive on the opening. They went 3-and-out and gave up a touchdown drive. But then, there's kind of a sign of life when we had that 41-yard touchdown bomb from Kirk Cousins to Stephon Diggs, and, we had a tie ball game. But then, the Niners just got right back down to it and hit him with another touchdown drive. And everyone kind of in the stadium kind of knew that there was this energy that the Niners are just too strong. We're going to keep pushing and pull away from the Vikings. And, the Vikings go into halftime down 10-14 and sure enough get shut out in the second half. And I think really, I mean, people are talking a lot about the Niners offense, which is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. George Kittle's the best tight end in the league, not even close. That Deebo Samuel, he's something else too. He's something special. And of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's had a terrific season. But it's this Niners defense with Bosa and these other guys. They're just so good at collapsing the pocket. And if you've got a quarterback that plays that sort of traditional, sitting back in the pocket type of game, the Niners defense is really something to behold. And they've got a great secondary too, led by Richard Sherman. So I think, ultimately you can't. They're the most complete team left in the game right now, I think, and done it for the show, and they're looking really strong. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I think so. I got to tell you, I like that catch by Stefon Diggs. He's a terrific receiver, but there's a bit of an attitude there. I wonder if that may have hurt the Vikings a little bit. I got to ask you a question, Arky. Would you rather be the wide receivers coach of Stefon Diggs, or would you rather be a parent of quadruplet 2-year-olds?
I mean, what's the difference? You know what I mean? I mean, this guy, complains on every play, so
Yeah, well, at least you know the 2-year-olds is probably going to grow out of it, huh?
I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
Well, how would everything go back in Wisconsin? At the bar and
Well,
whatnot.
well, we had a tough week. Things have been a little tough back here in Wisconsin while you've been out there gallivanting in California. We've been slow at the bar, and I think it's because of this dry January fad that started over in the United Kingdom in 2012 that seems to be spreading quite a bit. Now, of course, a lot of these people cheated on it over the weekend, especially during the Packers game. But these people, they just stopped drinking altogether in January. You and I had this podcast a few weeks ago when this guy down in Cincinnati, Jeff Lanham, needed to make some sacrifice, so he lived above his restaurant during the losing streak. And we said we should just have a week of no drugs and no booze and no murder.
Right.
And a week is about right, but this whole month, I mean, this is killing us here, and I just don't think it's right. And I'm really concerned about it, and I think people should get a grip on it. 1 week's fine. I do have one question. Now, we got a lot of good things going on at the bar. We got good food. You can come to the bar. You can eat. You don't have to drink. But listen, if you're going to come to the bar and you're going to go through dry January and just order whatever you're going to order to drink that's non-alcoholic, you should tip, I think, the same amount as if you had ordered your usual drinks. What do you think of that, Arky? You tip the same amount, or do you cut back on the tip and save money there too?
Well, I mean that's a bare minimum, but I mean that's honestly astonishing to me that the whole dry January thing has taken hold in Wisconsin of all places, the last place I think I would expect. But I'd implore the people of Wisconsin to reconsider. I mean, this isn't about in the latest health craze. I mean, if you think about it, the Wisconsin economy is entirely based on the production of dairy products and getting drunk and watching the Packers. I mean, those are
Yeah,
two
well,
things, two pillars of the Wisconsin economy. And for you to take one of them away, I worry about the future of the state if people are going to be trying to do this dry January nonsense like that.
well, let me tell you, Arky, don't get me going on that Dairyland production because we've been suffering there as well in this country. People aren't drinking milk. We just had Borden Dairy last week announce bankruptcy. Of course, they moved down to Texas too, like everybody else. And now people's drinking almond milk and oat milk and soy milk, but they're not drinking regular milk that's good for you. And so here now we got no beer, no milk, and we're trying to live in Wisconsin and keep this going. You're right. I think it's just awful. What you've been out in California? What have you been drinking out there?
Well, I mean, the latest craze out here in California is, this thing called kombucha or kombuchi. Yeah, I don't really know how it's pronounced. And,
Gosh.
I think, I'm definitely too middle-aged and Midwestern to know where it comes from, but it's some sort of a fruit drink that all the young kids are drinking on here, I think.
I got these kids coming in the bar. They want kombucha and they want something gluten free. And this is Wisconsin. Come on.
I know that's a
Lighten
disgrace.
up
I
a
mean,
little.
if things continue this way, I mean, and the Packers all we got left at this point, it sounds like. So,
I think that's right. Well, it's funny because I got some feedback from last week. We was talking about that big diaper plant that Warren David built up there in,
yep,
near outside of Appleton that
yep.
closed down. Well, one of our listeners wrote in. He said, "Hey, the paper and pulp industry is still going fairly strong up here, but part of the reason is that the state of Wisconsin." provided some tax incentives to Kimberly Clark, and this is just a year ago, announced $24 million in tax incentives if Kimberly Clark would maintain a certain level of employment in the state of Wisconsin and keep its Depends plant open. They make Depends adult diapers up here in Wisconsin. If they keep that open and keep it going, and so they're still going there, the paper industry. But our governor was up there apparently last year, and and when he's announcing these tax incentives and Kimberly Clark's commitment to the state of Wisconsin, you know what he says? You know what he says about this deal?
What's he
Scott
say?
Walker. Scott Walker says, "I want this to be my legacy." And it reminded me of that famous Mark Twain quote. You remember that about politicians and diapers and stuff? Do you remember? You're a journalist. You remember that quote, don't you?
Oh, sure, yeah. Mark Twain. You think he once said, politicians are like diapers. You need to change them often, and for the same reason.
Yeah, that's what he said. All right. So we had that going up here in Wisconsin. That's the kind of old news, but we had a listener wanted me to clarify that point. So, we got some good things going. We got our challenges like every place, but we still got the Packers. We still got a great winter season going here, and we got a lot of good things, a lot of business going on in healthcare up here, and that's one of our big industries. And of course, we got the bar going here in Prairie du Chien. So, and we got this weekend. Of course, we got some big matchups coming. What do you think of this next game here at Lambeau? Huh?
Well, I think we should just talk about quickly about the Lambeau game this weekend. The Packers looked good. They played a full 60 minutes, which is kind of what I was talking about last week, which is like they're not. It doesn't seem like they're playing a full game, but they came out swinging and got to an early lead and held on to it. Some heroics from Russell Wilson got the Seahawks back in this game, and they've got definitely a really strong receiving core. Tyler Lockett had a huge day, as did DK Metcalf, but ultimately they fell short. And Devontae Adams just blew up. And I think it's just really going to come down to their future. I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. It reminds me of Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, from back in
Oh
the
yeah, I remember that.
2010.
Oh,
I
that
mean,
was
that's really.
great.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl in 2010, just going to Jordy Nelson every play. They could do it again with Devontae Adams because he's that freaking. I mean, he's that freaking good.
Yeah.
So
Hey, Arky, let me ask you this: George Kittle or Gronkowski or Jordy Nelson?
now, I mean, people are going to call me biased here, but we were talking about Jordy Nelson, one of the greatest receivers of all time. I mean, the man won a Super Bowl for the city of Green Bay, for the state of Wisconsin. I don't know. If we talk about prime Jordy Nelson, I don't think we should get into it. The listeners are going to get that. But ultimately, I think just to wrap up this game, the Packers were looking good. They played a full, complete game, and they've got that rushing attack with Aaron Jones to help out. He's a good receiving back too, and the Packers defense stepped up big time as well. They're able to
Oh, they
generate a
did,
lot of
yeah.
sacks and turnovers, and that's the one thing I think gives me a little bit of confidence in them moving forward. Is they got a pretty solid defense that can help keep them in games here.
All right, that's a great game. I'm glad you got to see that one. I was a little worried you being out there in California and not being able to see it. I watched that game, to the extent I could while I was working in the bar.
Right, yes, of course.
But I got, what do you think about the upcoming game? Packers, 49ers.
Oh boy, so this is a rematch from Week 12, and you know what? Today I was going back over the rewatching the game from Week 12 and re-listening to the podcast, seeing what we said about it. Of course, we were both very gung ho, and we both picked the Packers that episode. But I rewatched that Packer game, and now listen, I'm not saying that that game was a fluke, but the very first play of the game was a turnover that basically gave a touchdown up to the Niners, and they had a couple other crucial turnovers in that game where I think if the Packers got those back, then it could have gone the other way. And that's no discredit to the Niners because I think ultimately they are the better team, and they're playing at home, so it's going to be tough for the Packers to go out on the road here, and because they already got the doors blown off them last time they did it. I just think that the last time. The Week 12 game was a little bit turnover dependent, and turnovers are pretty high in variance. You might get a bunch of one game and none the next game. So I don't know. It's tough for me to call. What are you thinking about this game, Jeb?
Well, if I were to be realistic about it and rational about it, I think I'd make a call that might be unpopular with some people here in the upper Midwest. So I'm going to be like I have been in the past, irrational and highly emotional, and I'm going with the Packers by a touchdown in this game.
Wow, that's a lot of confidence to give them a touchdown here. I think they're 7 point dogs in the game, but as of right now, but you know, it's tough for me to call this one. This is a big game. The Packers win this, it'll send them to the Super Bowl. Um, and I got to tell you, this game kind of reminds me a little bit of the Kansas City games earlier this year. Now I don't know if you remember, but there's a time where the Packers went down to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, a Matt Moore-led Chiefs team that didn't have Patrick Mahomes, but they got the job done.
I remember that.
The very next week, the Vikings go down and they can't get the job done. They lose to the Chiefs and their backup quarterback. And it kind of just showed the whole older brother, younger brother dynamic. The Vikings kind of just living in the shadow of the Green Bay Packers, their bigger brother. And yeah, I kind of think that there's a sort of mystical reversal of fortunes thing happening here too, where the Vikings are going out to the Bay, out to Santa Clara, and they can't get the job done. And their older brother, the Green Bay Packers, they got to go and finish the job. And that's why I got the Green Bay Packers going to the Super Bowl this year. And I got them by 4 points in this dog.
Oh, I think that's a good call, Arky. I can't wait to see this game. What time's this game on? Is this next Sunday or what?
It's next Sunday, yeah, and I think it's 4 o'clock maybe, or 5 o'clock Central Time, I think. Yeah, 5:40 Central Time, and it's gonna be hugely important. But maybe should we touch real quickly on the other side? Who would be facing the Packers in the Super Bowl should they win?
We should. Let me remind the Packer fans that this Sunday during the game, if you're out watching it somewhere, even if you're on a dry January, leave a tip as if you're drinking. Thank you. Okay, yeah, let's go on. Yeah,
for the sake of the Wisconsin economy, I second everything that Jen just said right there. But yeah, sure. Let's just talk a little bit about these two teams in the AFC Championship game, the Titans and the Chiefs. I don't know if you got a chance to watch their side of the bracket, but there's some incredible things happening over there, and the AFC fans have had a lot to take in. I mean, firstly, the Titans unseat, the dynasty and the Patriots, right? But then they booked their ticket to the strongest team in football, the Baltimore Ravens. Well, the Titans get right out on the field, just punch them right in the mouth, and the Ravens look shell shocked, like they're never used to playing from behind or having to mount a comeback. And the Titans just blow everyone's expectations out of the water, beat the best team in football, and are ticketed now to the Chiefs. And furthermore, did you see the Chiefs game? It was one of the most incredible things I ever seen.
It was a fantastic game. I saw more of that Titans game, but gotta tell you the truth, yeah.
The Chiefs game, I couldn't believe what I had seen. I mean, so the Chiefs start off with two crucial mistakes. First, a block punt, and then a muffed punt to basically set up the Texans, with the 10-yard field to score a touchdown. So they lose 14 points on that. They lose another 10 points just on Deshaun Watson moving the ball. And before you know it, before you blink once, and the Chiefs are down 24 in the hole. They're down 24 to nothing to the Texans in the first quarter, wow. And everything seems lost, right? And then the Chiefs get this kickoff return, right? And they take the ball down, and it's a great kickoff return, and you could just feel the energy in Kansas City kind of come alive, and everyone was there was a little spark. And of course, Patrick Mahomes, just 3-play drive, brings him right down and scores a touchdown, and everyone is kind of thinking, okay, well, they're still down 17, but who the hell knows? And you blink again, and you're going into halftime, and the Chiefs are up 28-24. I mean, it was almost like the Chiefs were out there just saying, you know what, here, we'll just give you free 24 points because we can make up for it. And then, you know what, after the first quarter, the Chiefs outscored the Titans 51-7. And the most unbelievable game I ever seen. The total, if you look at the statistical probability of winning, it was almost 100% for the Texans at one point before it nosedived. I mean, it was an incredible game. So these two teams will be facing off in Arrowhead next week, and the winner of that will meet the NFC champion in the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be a crazy ride for sure, because they've both had a crazy roller coaster of things to get to where they are today.
So who do you think the Packers will be playing in? We don't normally talk about games that don't involve the NFC North, but who do you think the Packers going to be playing in the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, at this point, the Titans have beaten the toughest teams they have to offer, and they beat the Patriots in Foxborough and the Ravens in Baltimore. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So you can't discount the Titans in this game at all. I mean, they're perfectly capable of winning. That being said, though, I think that the Chiefs' high-powered offense is going to be tough for the Titans to contain. And the Chiefs are just going to have to, I think, sell out on the run and respect their running game, even though that's what everyone seems to have been doing against Derrick Henry. I mean, you keep Derrick Henry under 100 yards, and there's no way. So I think that the Chiefs are going to win this game. And furthermore, I'm looking forward to the Chiefs taking this game, finally getting back to the Super Bowl, because do you know what that would mean for us, Jeb?
What would that mean?
Well, if the Chiefs win and the Packers win and they're both going to the Super Bowl,
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
now I know.
Yep, that would give America a Super Bowl I rematch.
Oh my gosh!
And it's, for those that don't know, the very first Super Bowl of all time, played at LA Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, was between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, where the Green Bay Packers won handily. And you know what? I got to tell you, Jeb, I think that if we were to get a Super Bowl I rematch like that, I don't know if America would be able to handle it. I mean, I think we might explode. I think Vince Lombardi and John Lennon and all the other American folk heroes might come out of their grave in celebration. We'd be able to handle a war with Iran right now, I think. But a Super Bowl I rematch, I don't know if we'd be able to take it. It'd be unbelievable.
It would be like fighting the Spanish-America War all over again.
That's exactly goddamn right.
Great. Oh, man. And let me tell you, you know what else would be pretty exciting if they had that rematch is if at the halftime show they could bring back kind of recreate that halftime show from Super Bowl #1 when Al Hurt played with the college bands. And of course, Al Hurt has passed away. May he rest in peace, a great trumpet player. But if you get somebody like Arturo Sandoval playing with the marching bands from Grambling State and the University of Arizona and bump out this Jennifer Lawrence and Shakira, would that be an awesome halftime show?
That would be just absolutely incredible. And, this is my hope is that we get a recreation of the Super Bowl I rematch, and it would just be something truly spectacular. So in this game, I think I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win by 7. I think it'll be close for a while, and I think the Chiefs will be able to bust out near the end and be able to pull off the victory.
Well, I'm not going with emotion on this one. I'm going with old time resentment here, to tell you the truth, because this Derrick Henry guy, boy, he can just roll over anybody. It reminds me of when I was playing 8th grade football, and we had a kid in our class. There's the other middle school in town. He had been held back for 3 years. So in 8th grade, he had the body of a senior in high school, and he played halfback on the other 8th grade team, and he just rolled over everybody. And that's what Derrick Henry reminds me of. Without
a doubt. I mean, he's a dangerous force. He rushed for 195 yards on the Ravens, but the Chiefs just got to prevent him from getting out to an early lead. And even so, they gave up 24 points to the Texans, and still. It didn't seem like anything could stop them. Honestly, these two teams kind of seem like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, and we'll see which budges first.
I think we will. It's going to be a great weekend, Arky. What else you got to report on? Anything else out there in California?
I don't think so. I think I'll keep you posted, and I'll hopefully we'll bring home a winner back to Wisconsin. But we should probably wrap up the show, don't you think?
I think we should. I just do want to say one thing, because there is a possibility this is the last Jeb and Arky show for the season. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll be talking about the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks here. But if bad things do happen, I just want to thank you, Arky, for hosting this podcast for the season, and thank our staff and our listeners.
Sure thing. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll hopefully hear from you all next week.